So, um, I'm actually feeling kind of down, kind of sad. Not really sad, but just feeling down of some sort. And it's really because I was just, these last 4 or 5 days or something like that, I've been like engaging online with like different people, part of the church, just about different topics and just seeing uh, some just different opinions, engaging with those opinions. Some of them are controversial, some of them are not. And in these interactions, it's really like I've actually like just now, as I was reflecting, maybe like an hour ago, feeling like it really seems like pointless to engage at all because, well, for one, the people that you engage with, they at least on matters that maybe they're theological matters, biblical interpretation, political, social issues, like what I've seen is like nobody is actually listening anymore. Like people listen to make arguments and everybody thinks that they're right. And there's nobody really like listening to actually seek out truth. And that's no longer like an actual motive or a driving factor. There's it's almost like pointless. It's who can make the best argument, and it seems like the goal of it all is who argues the best, who makes the most points, who gets the last word. And I think even the last 2 days, like I've not, I've just not responded to some conversations because I don't see that those that I interact with are actually looking for truth or looking to learn something. Like now, that's an assumption on my part, but it's because who can assume, like that's a big thing to assume. But I know like before I used to want to argue a point because I knew I was right and I wanted people to believe that I was right. And in the last few years, especially since going to college, learning how much I'm not right about, learning how much I can be wrong about. Now when I engage in a lot of these types of discussions, conversations, I've taken the approach of more like seeking asking questions to seek understanding. So somebody will post their view or their idea of something, I've engaged with some of those, and I'll even express how I don't know if I'm really like correct, but these are the things I see. And so how can you respond to that? Well, not those things don't really matter too much, but um my approach is just that I engage to present what I believe and seek to see if there's something that I'm not believing rightfully, you know? And well, with the goal of, or with the open mindedness to accept a truth that I wasn't aware of. So to change my mind, pretty much. I'm debating to, I don't debate to be right. I discuss or dialogue to see if I'm wrong and to learn something new. But I'm really seeing that that's not really the case with most dialogues. There are no more dialogues. There are no more conversations. Everything is an argument or a debate, and I don't mean argument as in yelling at each other, but it's just a war of ideologues, war of ideology, and it's not something I can engage in. Like I thought that getting into these spaces, I would be maybe benefiting, changing, like having some type of change. My voice would mean something. And I don't believe at all that my voice is meaningless, but what I am saying is that you're speaking to like five different walls. It's a very uneven room, right? Like there's so many walls that you speak to. And they're different colors, different shapes, and but none of the walls want to, like, I don't know. It's a weird analogy, but it's weird. It's like nobody's budging. Everybody is a wall, and everybody's right. And even if you are right, if I'm right in my discussion with somebody, nobody's willing to change their mind. And I see that to be the biggest problem right now. And I don't see how there could be much reconciliation with that unless people just humble themselves. Like, there's so much pride, so much arrogance. And it's just like people learn things and then they settle, or they learn only from like people that they agree with, people who also hold their ideas. It's just a huge mess. And this is in the church. Like, this isn't even outside of the church that I'm talking about. This is the church. And we don't even know how to have discussions anymore. We like the church this isn't for everything. Local churches probably do a whole lot better with this. You know, small local communities, congregations. I'm not speaking to congregations, but I'm talking about like at large. When you look across the board and, you know, you get a spectrum of personalities in the mix and all that. So, it is a generalized statement that I'm making, but like, there's no, what I'm seeing for myself now is that there's no point in debating. And I've thought about like my podcast, like how does that play into my podcast? I wanted to take on controversial subjects, and discuss those things, or, you know, have difficult conversations and stuff. And maybe I don't know if I still will. I have no idea, but maybe that won't be the focus, because I'm really seeing that like there, maybe it's also a platform too, because in those types of spaces, people are looking to do that. They're looking to argue. So maybe in a podcast format, it could be different, but it just makes me rethink what I want to do, what I want to focus on. And is it that I want to focus on tedious debates? Do I really want to expend that much energy? Because it's also draining too. And it's not just draining. There's no fulfillment in it, because again, there's nobody humble enough to actually be like, okay, let's have a dialogue about thoughts and ideas. And okay, can I change my mind? Is there something that I didn't see before? Things like that. You know, it's not as common. And I think there are a lot of people who have that attitude. But I think there's many, many more who just want to win the fight. And I don't know. I guess that's part of the pursuit of truth. I don't know. Because if everybody's pursuing truth and they're defending what they believe to be true, then, you know, it can get pretty tense like that. But what I don't understand is, what I don't believe is that the church should behave in the way that I've seen it behaving. And it's not just with that. It's like, and this is just with ideas. This is just with theology and biblical interpretation. When it comes to like even new things coming out, like this pastor who just committed suicide in Alabama, like, yo, it blows my mind that there are people in the church who are who so, I don't even know what word to use to describe it, that they behave in the way that is so anti-Christ and push a pastor into suicide, even in the case that he was a wolf in sheep's clothing, like whatever you want to call him. Who knows? I don't know much of his personal life. Like, not much. Whatever was said in a news article that I read, it was really about just the things that happened, what occurred, what happened. It doesn't go into like, you know, who he is. Of course not. It's a news article. But, you know, if you were to speak about people around him, if you were to like maybe read a journal, read a diary, I don't know, like what were his inner thoughts? Who was he really? Like what would the Lord say? You know, the Lord is the one who would judge him anyway. But was this a struggle of his? Was this like what was it? You know, like there's a number of things that you can ask questions about because we as Christians don't just judge on the surface. We're supposed to judge righteous judgment, and that goes all the way down to the heart. And anyway, the reason why I'm saying that is, you know, what if this man he was a pastor, genuinely loved the Lord, but was just bound in sin and uncontrolled, and then he hid it and stuff, you know, and then just me saying that alone, there would be like an uproar about that, like, well, he's not a Christian because of all these other reasons, or why didn't he expose it, or why didn't he have accountability? Like, there's always an argument, and what it led to was a man committing suicide. I think it was over the course of 8 days, something like that. Like after a week, he commits suicide because of how much. Like the only place that should be safe should be the church, and even for a pastor who's been caught in that type of sin, like what he was doing with, like, he was posting pornography, I think, and like he was doing some cross dressing stuff, and like a whole bunch of, like, there was a lot of stuff going on with him. And there's probably more to it that I don't know, but it was a very brief article. But it was like sexual immorality and stuff like that going on. And even for somebody like him, like what do you do with somebody like him in that situation? Like, do you just condemn the man, just the way that it was treated? I don't know. You you can see that evidently there was something not right with the way he was treated, spoken about, when it pushed him to the point of committing suicide. And if I just look to keep people accountable, like just those who spoke out, just those who spoke out, just those who spoke wrongfully, without looking to try to looking at how to hold him accountable, and we just separate the two. Okay, there's his situation, but then what about how the church responds or people respond in general to a man like that, and the way that the response drove somebody to suicide. What? How does that not like just hit you and be like, and you slow down and you're like, oh, dang, I did wrong. Maybe I should reevaluate this. But no, instead, there's a lot of people, maybe let's say a lot or few, whoever. There's there's a group of people, there's a collective of people who are saying that no, they're not wrong, that it was the judgment of God for him to commit suicide. That's what he gets, or like things like along those lines, that there's no self-reflection or self-accountability or like any type of like thought of like, oh, maybe I did something wrong. Maybe this wasn't a demonstration of the love of Christ, even to a man who was pastor. Like, I don't understand the logic in somebody's mind where they would think that they can. I don't know. It's beyond my comprehension. The reasoning behind it is just beyond my is beyond me. How you believe in Jesus and act nothing like him, even when, like, let's say that was your enemy in the moment. He said, "Love your enemies." That should have been like the end of discussion for anybody who wanted to say something uh, wrong about him. Love your enemies. But just think about it, like what is like, yo, I don't know. It actually, I'm actually speechless. I don't know what to say about it because I don't know. I don't think there's anything to say. So all I hope, man, I think social media is so toxic, yo. Like I'm seeing how toxic it really is, and I try to get into social media to try to, connect with people. Try to thinking that if I present my ideas, it could be helpful to some people. Um, and I'm just like, yo, this thing is crazy. It's like the worst of people coming out publicly. Hey, I don't, and there's no way to really combat it. Really, it's like it's no way. I don't even know what the church's role or how the church like true believers like what is the role of us in these types of spaces, in social media. It is a hub for the flesh. I think a hub for the flesh. And I don't think there's a better way to put it. A hub for the flesh. That was probably a loud swallow. This microphone's pretty sensitive. Well, I guess that's it for this one. Um, that's all I got.